What's up, guys? So I just saw the new My Hero Academia 2 Heroes movie, so let's just get right into it and talk about it. So the beginning of the movie basically is a flashback and or dream of All Might and thinking about kind of his glory days in America, where he was like basically studying abroad, and he's kind of palling around with his friend Dave, capturing villains, and the beginning sequence here is really awesome and showing their kind of camaraderie between these two guys who have kind of built up such a good friendship. And seeing All Might in his glory days, young and smiling, jumping around, capturing these villains, and introducing himself to the United States, because they're in Japan. I mean, he's usually in Japan, so they're like, who is this guy? And he's like, I'm All Might, the best hero, or whatever. But see, like, the intensity of the animation and the sequence in general was a really awesome introduction to this movie and really gets you pumped for what the rest of the movie has to offer. Unfortunately, once that kind of initial introduction ends, we kind of get into a little bit of a slow territory with a lot of kind of fluff, I guess you could call it. With a really good scene with Midoriya and All Might going to Island in the plane, and Midoriya is just freaking geeking out, which he's hilarious. And they feel the need to introduce and explain Midoriya's kind of origin or his backstory for some reason, and kind of go over how All for One works, which is fine, but they kind of like just reuse the sequences from the anime, and I don't know if it was entirely necessary to even go over this stuff. I mean, sure, I guess if you're not familiar with My Hero Academia, then things might be confusing, but there's a lot of other stuff in the movie that would confuse anybody that's not familiar with this anime. So I'm like, okay, well, is it entirely necessary to focus so much time on this, I guess, when they could have just done it like through dialogue, maybe like a throwaway sentence here and there, or kind of scatter it throughout the movie instead of making this, portion really bloated, I guess you could call it. That's kind of how I felt about that anyway. But they're flying to Island, and this place is rather interesting. Very technological research place and it's really cool. And obviously, as My Hero Academia does, you see all these really interesting heroes. You see Godzilla, which is the only time we see Godzilla, and I'll get into that a little bit later. Godzilla's there's freaking Bee Girl, and then we're introduced to Melissa, the best girl movie version, is what I like calling her, because she is just like the best girl. She's focusing on researching and bettering the world, and she just has no flaws. But she is quirkless, and Midoriya really finds a connection with her in that respect, and they kind of become friends. And I like her introduction because she just hops into frame on a freaking pogo stick that disappears, which I'm like, wow, that's like some really futuristic technology. So I don't know if they're going to integrate this into the anime or manga. I don't think they are, because I haven't read the manga, but I mean, I plan on it. Who knows if that'll happen, but it would be cool if they integrated this kind of stuff into the manga, although I feel like some of the inventions and stuff would be kind of overpowered and kind of make things a little bit too easy for the kids at UA and the other heroes. But anyway, we are introduced to her, and she's cool. And then we are introduced to Dave again, because him and All Might are reuniting again at this Island for the, the Island Expo or whatever. So they have a kind of a neat little reunion here. All Might, like, Dave's like noticing that All Might can't keep up his form, so he's like, okay, well, we need to talk alone and catch up alone, so you guys scram. And it's really cool seeing that Dave has so much like concern for All Might, like he's doing these readings on him and noticing that his power is dropping significantly, and says, this doesn't seem to be just from your injury from All for One. So I like that aspect of it. That was really cool because it shows that Dave is very like intuitive guy, and he's very smart, and he just like knows what's going on. So he's a pretty cool character, even though his personality to me is a little bit bland. In the intro, they showed that he might have had a little bit more of an outgoing personality, but obviously, like, he's spent a long time doing, smothered in his research. So that's kind of like, I feel like that kind of like maybe drained some of his outgoingness. So now he's just kind of like has a bland personality, I guess. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. So Midoriya and Melissa are kind of walking, and we see that Rock Kid has climbed this mountain doing this challenge stuff, and Midoriya's like, oh, he's here? And then Bakugo's there, and then freaking Todoroki and some girls are there, and like every side character is just there. Because we just have to put them in the movie, They don't necessarily have to do anything, but we'll put them in the movie anyway. And I'll get into their role in the movie in a second. But, and they mentioned that there's 3 girls that didn't get tickets because there was a limited number of tickets or something. And they just show them sitting on a bed. And I'm like, why come in the first place? Why not just like say that they didn't come at all, other than just having to put them in the movie? Like, we need to put Froppy, Inviso Girl, and I think it's Acid Girl also, but they just like show them sitting on the bed, and I guess that might be a little bit humorous, but I didn't see much of a point to that. And I didn't see much of a point to bringing all of these characters, even though I am glad that most of them had some role to play in the plot that starts to unfold. But going back to this mountain thing, it's an interesting challenge. The Rock Dude, like, it's kind of like they're challenging each other, and the Rock Dude has like 15-second time, and then Bakugo does it in a shorter time, and then they show Todoroki in a pretty funny scene. He just ices the entire thing, and then Bakugo's mad that Midoriya's there, and he's like, what are you doing here? You're always here in my face, don't you dare get a better time than me. Midoriya doesn't, and this is the first glimpse that Melissa has, so it's a good way to show Midoriya's quirk for Melissa to witness before things go awry. He does it and gets a worse time than Bakugo, slightly, of course. So she witnesses his quirk, and then after noticing that all of the UA students basically are there, also Mineta and Kaminari, I think, the Electro dude, I think both of them have like jobs there, so that's why they're there. So, I mean, there's reasons for them to be there. They're just in the movie. So after they disperse, she says, hey, Midoriya, come back to my room. I have something to show you, wink, wink. And literally, in sync, the entire theater goes, my boobs. Oh my god, like, anime fans are such pervs. But anyway, they go back to her room, and she gives him this really cool gimmick device. And she says, I designed it to basically be able to withstand 3 full power punches from All Might, or something like that. And I'm like, okay, so that's an interesting gimmick. And also, I wonder if that will break by the end of the movie. Spoilers, it does. So I'm like, okay, so they're obviously going to have the 1, 2, 3 countdown kind of thing to add tension to this thing. But they don't end up doing that per se. But I thought that was an interesting kind of thing. And I liked the device, and it shows off her ingenuity and her skills. Kind of following in her father's footsteps, so to speak, and trying to make the world of heroes a better place. By the way, I don't know what it was, but during most of the runtime of this movie, I had a suspicion that she was behind the whole thing, that she was like the main villain or whatever, but obviously that ended up not being the case. Funny enough. But and we'll get to the Dave and Sam, his assistant guy, in a minute, but I thought the arm thing was kind of cool because, okay, it's going to allow him to be able to push himself and, you know, tap into more of the one for all power in the end to create more like of a dramatic moment, and which it does, and we'll get into that in a second. But going on to the actual expo, where the main villain of the movie arrives, and this guy is very, very interesting. That's sarcasm, because, like, who knows anything about this guy and his motivations, and he's just not, like, a very deep villain. He's just, like, the bad guy of the movie. But he takes everything hostage, puts all the heroes in this blue tape, and even All Might in the blue tape. And I understand that All Might has a limited time to keep up that form. And so he's giving a speech, gets tied up with the blue tape. And I'm like, what is this blue tape that's preventing All Might from just like snapping it, you know? Because sure, I mean, that's kind of the way that I explain it away, is that All Might is using up all of his strength just keeping up his form, because he has to keep up his image, you know. So everybody gets captured, and this I'm going to call him Shredder. I think his name is like Wolf. I don't know, Wolf Man or Wolf something. Whatever. He's bad guy. I'm going to call him Shredder just because I remember that better because of his mask. Which I like his mask. I think his mask is pretty cool, but that's the only like discernible feature of his design, really. So I thought his design was pretty cool, and his powers are really cool too, and we'll get into that in a second. But the students are noticing what's going on, and All Might is obviously, you know, telepathy, I guess, with Midoriya. Oh, but before this, Earjack Girl, her use in the movie is surveillance. She's able to hear stuff, and she taps in and hears All Might's telling them what's going on. So they learn what's going on that way. And then Midoriya goes down a little bit lower and kind of like through telepathy or whatever. And All Might's like, no, don't do it. Don't put yourself in danger, even though he knows that Midoriya is going to put himself in danger to try to save everybody. So the group of UA students decide to start heading up to the security system to unlock the security so that people can escape the island or something. And Dave and his assistant Sam are taken hostage, quote unquote, by Shredder. And they start to go to the 200th floor where the security system is located. I don't know if that's a really good location to have your security system, but whatever. So you have Midoriya's group, and then you have Bakugo and Rock Kid. So I thought it was interesting that they decided to separate the students, and I thought that was a really cool idea, instead of just having their one group and focusing the story just on that one thing. That way you can keep things a little bit fresh and kind of cut between these two groups a little bit. So the group ends up on, I think it's like the 80th floor or something like that, and the two henchmen says, hey, what are you kids doing? But it turns out that they're talking to Bakugo and Rock Kid. And they get into a really cool fight with these guys. Really well animated. I like the stylization of the movements and stuff. Of Todoroki and Bakugo fighting these guys, and Rock Kid's punched into a rock wall, concrete wall. But this fight I really, really, really liked. I thought it was awesome. So the other kids are still climbing up toward the top. They get intercepted by a bunch of robots. And this is where Electro jumps in. He's like, let me handle this. And I'm like, okay, cool. So they're going to have a cool use for him. Nope. His electricity does nothing to the robots, and he just wipes his brain off. And I'm like, okay, that's funny, I guess. But that just makes him useless. What is the point to having him there if he's literally going to do nothing? So he literally did nothing. But for most of the characters, they actually did have a use. Like, Ida has this cool jet propulsion, and he's like using it to kick the robots around and kick doors open and stuff. And Earjack Girl and Momo is creating like this cannon thing. So they actually are doing stuff And Mineta is throwing his sticky balls at them. And actually, he has a cool use too, because he's like really small and he can climb walls easily, and he's super scared. And they convince him to climb through the vents and up the wall, or up the building or whatever, because they're like, you can save everybody and be famous, and then you'll have a harem. And he's like using the harem as motivation to get up that wall. Freaking hilarious, man. Yeah, good stuff. I like the action here. There's a lot of tension with these robots because they were shown, I guess that's a use for Kaminari, or I think that's his name, Electro, showing that they can withstand the electricity of him. Shows how strong these security bots are, in that they are really actually tough to stop. And so I guess that shows that, yeah, these kids are going to have a hard time with all of these large number of robots. So now we have Uraraka using her quirk and having her use in the film, basically, in getting movie best girl and Melissa and Midoriya up to the security room with her quirk, kind of almost sacrificing herself, because we got all these robots charging at her. So the scene's like filled with tension, and they're floating up there. Will they make it before she gets attacked by the robots or not? And Midoriya and Melissa end up getting blown over. And it's like, oh man, how are they gonna, get out of this situation? And Todoroki shows up and kind of uses his fire to help float them along and get them where they need to be. So it's a nice like team effort. Speaking of team dynamics, I liked this a lot. It's showing UA students like having a lot of teamwork, and that's what the show does a lot, really well, I think. But they get to the security room and find out that Dave, is the culprit and like kind of the mastermind of this plan. But as they're explaining it, it's actually more that of Sam, his assistant's diabolical plan to hire heroes to act like villains to kind of capture everybody so that they can steal their technology back. His quirk amplification technology. So that was kind of predictable, I would say, because, as I said, I was suspicious of Melissa, but also suspicious of Dave and Sam as well. So I thought like maybe all three of them were like diabolical plotters or whatever. But it turns out Melissa is just like the good girl, and Dave is a bad boy. Even though his reasonings are sound, and he thought, okay, just doing this one bad thing, nobody's gonna get in harm's way. But come to find out, Melissa and all those kids had to go through such danger to get up there, and Dave's like, what's going on? This isn't supposed to happen. And Sam is like, I've been under you for so long, blah, blah, blah. I'm an irate freaking guy, and that's all you know about me. I'm just like a generic dude. So he like hired actual villains. And then Shredder shows up, shoots Sam, so that's the end of his character, I guess. And they actually showed blood. Oh my god, this show is so dark. But anyway, there's like, within the span of this couple of minutes, there's like 8 freaking twists and turns. Like, oh, Dave is the culprit. No, Sam is the culprit. And then the Shredder goes to shoot Sam. Oh, he shot Sam. Oh no, Dave jumped in the way of the bullet. So now Dave is the one who's shot. And then Sam gets killed anyway. So, man, really kind of dramatic moments. But I did feel like the Dave being the culprit was a little bit predictable, but whatever. And honestly, this is kind of where things really pick up, especially in terms of the animation quality. Because for the most part, for most of the movie, I thought that the animation was just regular anime TV show quality. There was some like derp face here and there, some like subpar looking stuff. But, budgetary wise, I think I was just expecting a little bit more overall. But the final, battle, so to speak, really punches it up a notch. And now I know where like a lot of the budget and time went into for this, is this like CG animated freaking villain boss fight, which we'll get into in a second. So correct me if I'm missing something here. When Dave kind of comes out and says, I orchestrated the events, or me and Sam did the events of tonight, And Melissa's just like so shocked and can't believe it. And he's like saying, I wanted to steal this device, my research, for All Might because he's dropping in power so much. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you just learned about All Might losing so much power. So does that mean that you orchestrated the events like this recently? Or were you orchestrating these events like for a while now, and just when you found out about All Might's strength decrease, decided to go after that specific device? I was a little unclear about that, because it seems really weird to just like now orchestrate these events right after you hear about All Might's descent. So that was kind of weird. Obviously, fill in any gaps that I might be missing here. So it turns out that Shredder has a thing with All for One, and knowing the connection between Dave and All Might, he's like, this is an opportunity to get to All Might or whatever. But at any rate, they start escaping in a helicopter. Midoriya gets up there. Really awesome Midoriya moments here of him just like pushing himself past his limits and seeing his frustration because he just can't get that helicopter. And All Might's like, don't you dare lose that smile. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome, man. He jumps up, gets the helicopter down, basically murders the pilot, and the explosion of the helicopter. And I'm thinking, okay, well, he's still in that form, and he's still this powerful. Am I missing something with that blue tape? Why couldn't he break out of that blue tape? Unless it's just like he didn't want to put all those people that were there in danger. Obviously, if I'm missing something there, let me know in the comments. But now we begin the freaking epic-ass fight of the main villain, Shredder. He puts the device on in the exploding helicopter, apparently, and just is this, like, absorbing... Speaking of his quirk, because we haven't talked about it very much, his quirk is awesome, and that's, like... 90% of his character in this movie is his quirk and how awesome it is, and how awesome it is to fight against Midoriya and All Might. So he's like absorbing these things. He's using the ground to attack Midoriya, and he's like, I'm barely using any of my power here, and you can't even keep up. And meanwhile, Midoriya has been using his glove for a few times, and I'm thinking like, okay, when's the moment gonna be to where he uses it for 100% for the fourth time, thereby pushing past his limits and breaking it? But that doesn't really happen. He doesn't really bring attention to the gimmick of the 3 times of All Might's 100%, which was what I was expecting. But we do have an epic battle, freaking awesome animation. The CG stuck out a little bit, as it usually does, but I think it worked well in the context of this villain's power, because it would be very hard to 2D animate and take a lot of time, I guess you could say, to 2D animate all these wires and this technology stuff. And I think it's awesome that the other characters bust in, and I'm like, oh yeah, man, we got All Might, Midoriya, and now all these other characters to fight against this like overpowered villain, because he has that device amplifying his quirk. So that's freaking awesome. Unfortunately, only Todoroki and Bakugo do anything, so it's like pointless for the other characters to show up there. They should have just said, oh, the other guys stayed to hold back the robots so that we can come and help you guys. But anyway, I am glad that they actually had a little bit of use for the other characters, since they decided to shove them into the movie. But man, such good stuff. And Midoriya and All Might's like teamwork here, the moments that they had, they're doing the poses, and they do the freaking Plus Ultra stuff and beyond Plus Ultra, and they do the double Detroit smash, which I was really hoping it would come full circle to do the California smash, since that was kind of what All Might was doing in the beginning of the movie, and I was hoping it would come to full circle with that. But anyway, not a huge deal. But they finally defeat the villain. Really good stuff. And Dave actually sees Midoriya doing like the All Might punch pose, and he's like, oh man. So, you know, awesome character stuff. The aftermath of this is really nice. But obviously the arm thing broke, and it's like, okay, I guess she can't just make another one, you know, since she should have all that research on file on how to create the thing. But no, it's not in the anime or manga, so we're just gonna kind of forget about it, I guess. But anyway, All Might and Midoriya are struggling against this guy, and I'm like, where the hell's Godzilla at, dude? Like, I was just hoping for like a Godzilla roar and this lightning bolt to streak across the sky or something like that. I don't know, maybe on earlier on we were seeing him like catch his early morning ocean stroll away from the island or something. But that would have been awesome to see. But whatever. Anyway, the movie was awesome. I liked the movie a lot. I did think the animation was a little bit subpar for like a movie thing, but the ending was so epic that I think it made up for it a little bit. But obviously, what do you guys think? Did you enjoy the movie? If you saw it, hopefully you did see it because I just ruined everything. But also, I think Dave and Melissa are pretty cool characters, even though Dave's a little bit bland of a personality. I liked it kept the integrity of the kind of humor and quirkiness of the show. And so I guess that just sums up my thoughts on the whole thing. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Thank you very much for sticking with me for these 25 to 30-minute videos. But as always, thank you for watching, and take it easy.